2006, the couple divorced. After meeting Emily, Matt moved to Westerville with his teenage son Joey. The couple married in 2018, and Matt and Joey moved into Emily's condo. Emily absolutely adored Joey and treated him as if he was her own. Emily's loved ones weren't too fond of Matt and found the match to be quite peculiar. While Emily was a neat freak who practiced good hygiene, Matt always appeared unkempt and frazzled. As soon as the couple married, Matt became possessive and isolated Emily from her friends. According to them, he spoke to Emily in a demeaning manner and constantly felt the need to assert his dominance over her. Emily loved nature and took beautiful photographs, which she framed and hung up in her condo. When Matt moved in, he forced her to take them all down. Bizarrely, he even wore Emily's deceased husband's wedding ring. Matt never once held a job or contributed to the household while married to Emily, and behaved as though she was solely responsible for Joey. When it came to Emily, Matt's attitude was my way or the highway, and some believe she was considering divorce shortly before her disappearance. In early 2019, Joey began exhibiting behavioural problems in school and was diagnosed with schizophrenia. Despite clearly needing mental health intervention, Matt refused to get his son help because he didn't believe in doctors. Over time, Joey's condition further deteriorated, and while out drinking one night with friends, Matt reportedly stated he wanted Emily to adopt a baby girl from Ethiopia because the kid I got is now beyond help, and said that he was done with Joey. While Emily was out of town in the summer of 2019, Matt called Emily and told her that Joey was gone. The 17-year-old had been found hanging from a tree in a local park. His death was ruled a suicide, and Emily was devastated once again. Less than a year later, Emily vanished. On May the 4th, 2020, it was Emily's 52nd birthday. She spent the evening with Matt, and after a long night of bar hopping, the couple went back to their condo and went to sleep. The next morning at 10 a.m, Matt called several of Emily's friends and asked if they had seen or heard from her. He claimed that although Emily's phone, keys and car were still at the condo, she was nowhere to be